Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Tell me your city and country. It means a lot to know who I'm speaking to. And if this message resonates with you today, consider subscribing to this channel. Wellness over 60-60. You're not alone in this journey. Now take a breath and come with me. I want to speak to you not just as a doctor, not just as a urologist with decades of experience, but as a man who understands what it means to feel your body change with time. Maybe you've noticed your energy isn't the same. Your sleep feels lighter, your circulation slower, and intimacy, but it doesn't flow like it once did. You're not broken, you're aging, and aging, when we understand it, is not a curse. It's a call to awareness. And today, I want to bring your attention to something surprisingly simple, something dark, something rich, something many of us have written off as a guilty pleasure. I want to talk to you about chocolate, but not just any chocolate. I'm talking about real chocolate, 70% dark chocolate, bitter, bold, and packed with compounds that can quietly transform your health if you give them a chance. Now, I know what you're thinking. Doctor, how can chocolate have anything to do with my health down there? Believe me, I understand the skepticism. For years, we've been trained to believe that anything sweet, anything indulgent, belongs in the category of bad choices. But science, gentlemen, science, keeps evolving, and what we once dismissed, we now study with awe. There's something powerful hidden in the bitter depths of dark chocolate. It's not the sugar, we'll get to that. It's not the fat, we'll handle that too. It's the antioxidants, the flavonoids, the nitric oxide boost. These are not just fancy terms. These are real agents of change inside your arteries, your brain, your hormones, and yes, your erections. Because as a urologist, I don't just talk about the surface. I talk about blood flow, vascular health, endothelial function, testosterone modulation, mood regulation, and you'd be surprised how a small square of the right kind of chocolate, taken consistently, could influence all of these aspects. This isn't a magic pill, and I'm not selling you a dream. I'm giving you knowledge, something no one can take away from you. When you learn how your body works, how your vessels dilate, how your hormones interact, how your nerves fire you, stop chasing fads and start making choices rooted in truth. Let's take a moment to appreciate this. For centuries, cacao was considered sacred. The Mayans called it the food of the gods. Warriors drank it before battle. Priests used it in rituals. It was never about dessert. It was about vitality, endurance, connection to something deeper. Today, we've buried it in sugar, milk, and marketing. But when we strip away the fluff, what's left is a potent, natural medicine, one that speaks to the aging male body in ways modern medicine is only just beginning to fully understand. And that's why you're here. Not for gimmicks, not for myths. You're here for real answers. And I'm here to give them to you, one truth at a time. So grab a chair, settle in, because over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what 70% dark chocolate can do, not just for your taste buds, but for your nitric oxide levels, your insulin sensitivity, your stress hormones, and yes, your performance between the sheets. Let's talk like men. Let's talk like brothers. Let's talk like seekers of a better life beyond 60. Let's start where it all begins. The endothelium, that thin, delicate layer that lines the inside of your blood vessels. You probably don't think about it much, but as a urologist, I think about it every single day. Because if your endothelium is weak, your erections will be weak. Your heart, your brain, your stamina, everything suffers when that lining isn't working properly. Now here's where dark chocolate enters the picture, like an old friend with unexpected wisdom. 70% cortisol dark chocolates, loaded with flavonoids. These are natural compounds that help your blood vessels relax, widen, and carry oxygen more efficiently. That's not just good news for your heart. That's excellent news for your intimacy. You see, an erection isn't just about arousal, it's about circulation. Blood has to flow freely. Arteries must respond with elasticity. Nitric oxide, the molecule that signals those vessels to open up, has to be produced in sufficient quantities. And wouldn't you know it, dark chocolate has been shown to enhance nitric oxide availability in the body. This is not a theory, it's not wishful thinking. It's the kind of result we've seen in clinical studies, where older men who consume moderate amounts of dark chocolate experience improved vascular response, reduced blood pressure, and even increased insulin sensitivity. And yes, All of that translates into better function, not just in the bedroom, but in your entire daily life. I've had patients in their late 60s, early 70s, even their 80s, come to me discouraged. "Doc," they say, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." And I listen. Then I ask about their diet. I ask about their sugar intake, their stress, their sleep, and how often they eat foods that help rather than harm. Often, they've given up on the idea that simple foods can help. And then I tell them this: change just one thing. Try 1 square of 70% dark chocolate a day for a month. Just one. When they come back, there's something different in their posture, a spark in their eye. They tell me they're sleeping better. They feel less anxious. One even joked that his wife started calling him Chocolate Thunder. I smiled, because it wasn't just the chocolate, it was the shift in self-care. The act of choosing something with intentions, something that supports their biology, not just numbs it. Let me be clear. This isn't permission to eat any chocolate. That sugary bar you grab at the gas station, that's not what I'm talking about. Those are loaded with milk solids, processed fats, and high levels of sugar that cancel out the benefits. What you want is quality. Look at the label. It should say 70% cacao or more. The fewer ingredients, the better. Ideally, cacao mass, cacao butter, a bit of cane sugar, maybe some vanilla. That's it. Now let's talk testosterone, the male hormone that often starts to decline after 60. You may think chocolate has no impact there, but studies suggest otherwise. The antioxidants in dark chocolate help reduce oxidative stress, which can suppress testosterone production. By lowering inflammation and supporting adrenal function, chocolate may indirectly support your hormone balance. Not boost it artificially, but support it naturally, in harmony with your body. That's what we want at this stage of life. Not sudden highs and dangerous spikes. We want balance, steady energy, reliable performance, mood, stability. We want to feel like ourselves again without wrecking our liver, our sleep, or our dignity. Dark chocolate, in the right amount, can be part of that balance. A square in the afternoon instead of a sugary dessert. A bite after lunch to settle a craving. A small daily ritual that tells your body, "I respect you, I want you to thrive." And here's something else you may not expect. It lifts your mood. Dark chocolate encourages the brain to release endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that help ease depression, reduce anxiety, and restore your sense of motivation. And as you probably know by now, libido is not just physical, it's emotional. When your mood lifts, everything lifts. So don't underestimate the quiet power of what you put in your mouth. And don't let outdated ideas make you feel guilty for enjoying a square of something that's been healing men long before we had pills and procedures. You deserve pleasure that also gives back. You deserve knowledge that empowers you. Deserve to feel good again. And in the next moments, I'm going to show you how to integrate this new habit into your daily rhythm without disrupting your routine, without complicating your diet. You don't need to reinvent your life. You just need to realign it. Let's make this real. You don't need a radical diet overhaul. You don't need to count every gram of food you eat or track every nutrient. What you need is intention and consistency. That's the foundation of every treatment plan I give to men your age, those who want to thrive, not just survive. So how do you use dark chocolate wisely? First, understand the dose. The magic isn't in excess. I'm not recommending a bar a day. I'm recommending a square, maybe 2, around 15 to 30 grams. That's enough to deliver flavonoids, support nitric oxide production, and positively impact your vascular health without overwhelming your body with calories or saturated fat. I advise my patients to pair it with a moment, a ritual, maybe after lunch, when you often crave something sweet, or in the early evening as you unwind. Don't eat it on the go. Don't combine it with sugary snacks. Let the chocolate be the event. Sit with it, smell it, let it melt slowly in your mouth. You're not just feeding your body, you're rewiring your relationship with food. You see, men in their 60s and 70s often fall into one of two camps: those who feel defeated by their bodies, and those who begin to appreciate their bodies in a new light. I want you in the second camp, and I want dark chocolate to be part of that shift. This small habit, done daily, can set the tone for other improvements. A better breakfast, more water, more movement, less stress eating. You're telling yourself, I can do this. I can take care of myself without punishment. And when you start feeling better mentally, emotionally, intimately, you'll realize that healing often begins with the smallest step. And here's something else I want you to know. For men who are pre-diabetic or insulin resistant, which is more common than you think, after 60 dark chocolate can be a surprising ally. Because while milk chocolate spikes blood sugar rapidly, cacao dark chocolate has a much lower glycemic impact. It slows down digestion, helps reduce sugar cravings, and supports better insulin sensitivity over time. Now, if you are already on medications for blood pressure or cholesterol, you may be wondering, "Doctor, is it safe for me?" Let me reassure you, unless you've been instructed to avoid caffeine entirely or you have a rare allergy to cacao, dark chocolate in moderation is not only safe, it's beneficial. But again, I stress, quality matters. Look for organic options when possible. Fair trade sources. Avoid additives, emulsifiers, and processed oils. You want pure cacao, power, not artificial noise. There's also an emotional benefit I see over and over. Many of my older patients have lost the joy of eating. They eat because they have to, because it's lunchtime, because the pills say take with food, but the pleasure, the delight is gone. When they reintroduce something as rich and aromatic as dark chocolate, even in small amounts, it reignites a part of the brain that's been asleep. And that spark, that tiny spark, often leads to bigger flames, more interest in cooking, in tasting, in exploring new healthy foods, more curiosity, more life. And remember this, pleasure is not a sin. Taking care of yourself is not vanity. Enjoying something healthy, even if it feels indulgent, is part of respecting the body God gave you. You've spent decades working, building, supporting others. You've earned the right to feel good in your own skin, without guilt. So tomorrow, when you see that dark square resting on your kitchen counter, I want you to pause. I want you to remember what you've learned here. And I want you to make a choice not out of habit, not out of boredom, but out of knowledge. This is no longer just a treat, it's a tool. One that connects your mind, your hormones, your blood vessels, and your spirit. And we're only getting started. Because in the next block, I'm going to explain how chocolate interacts with stress, cortisol, and your nervous system, how that relates to your libido, your sleep, and your clarity of thought. Let's shift our attention now to something less visible, but just as powerful. I'm talking about stress. And I want you to understand, truly understand, what chronic stress is doing to your body, your energy, your sexual drive, and your sleep. Many men over 60 are carrying burdens silently. The pressure to remain strong, to appear unshaken, to handle everything with calm dignity. It comes at a cost. You may not even notice it, but it's there. Shallow breathing, tension in the jaw, tightness in the chest, and a general feeling that your body is always on alert. This, my friend, is cortisol at work. Cortisol is the stress hormone. When it stays elevated for too long, it begins to sabotage your testosterone, your sleep cycles, your insulin response, and your mood. It short-circuits your libido. It weakens your erections. It robs you of desire and replaces it with fatigue. And here's the twist. Your brain gets used to it. You start thinking it's normal to feel heavy, foggy, flat. Now, what does dark chocolate have to do with any of this? Here's the science. The flavonoids in dark chocolate don't just support your heart, they influence your brain chemistry. They increase cerebral blood flow. They stimulate the release of dopamine and serotonin, the very neurotransmitters that tell your brain, you're okay, you're safe, you can relax now. When you're in that relaxed state, your cortisol drops naturally. Your body shifts from fight or flight into rest and repair. That's when testosterone begins to stabilize. That's when you sleep deeper, recover faster, and begin to feel pleasure again in food, in touch, in intimacy. One small study from a European journal showed that men who consumed 40 grams of high cacao dark chocolate daily for 2 weeks had significantly reduced levels of cortisol and stress markers in saliva. That's not a miracle, that's biochemistry. You're giving your body the raw materials it needs to stop fighting and start healing. And there's something psychological to when you allow yourself to enjoy a square of chocolate, not out of impulse, but out of choice. You're breaking a pattern. You're telling your nervous system, I'm not depriving myself anymore, I'm feeding myself wisely. That shift, though small, can ripple outward. It builds self-trust, it brings calm. And calm is the soil where intimacy can grow again. Men often tell me they feel numb after a certain age, that they've lost that spark, not just sexually, but in general. And what I explain is that numbing isn't HIT's adaptation. You've spent years under pressure, suppressing emotion, pushing through fatigue, The fire hasn't died, it's just buried. And sometimes, something as unexpected as dark chocolate can help stoke the first flame again. But let's be honest, no food, no matter how potent, can fix what's broken if you're living in constant mental war. That's why I also prescribe stillness, a walk in the morning, 5 minutes of slow breathing, gratitude before sleep, and yes, a square of dark chocolate. Because in those moments of peace, your hormones realign, your blood vessels relax, and your sense of masculinity is no longer about performance, but about presence. Remember this: when your cortisol is high, your testosterone is low. But when your mind is calm, your body feels safe to be vital again. And when your body feels vital, your desire returns, not forced, not mechanical, but natural. Dark chocolate may seem like a small gesture, but in truth, it can become a signal, a signpost that you are choosing balance over chaos, that you are no longer rushing through life on autopilot, that you are, finally, claiming your right to feel well, to feel strong, and to feel desire again. Because intimacy isn't about proving anything, it's about connection, and connection, true, satisfying connection, only happens when the body is calm, the mind is clear, and the spirit is open. And in the next block, I'm going to walk you through how this ties directly into the health of your arteries, your heart, and the silent condition most men over 60 face without even knowing it's endothelial dysfunction. You'll learn why treating that root cause is the real secret to lasting sexual health. Now I want to talk to you about something most doctors don't explain in enough detail. But I will, because this is where many of your challenges begin. It's called endothelial dysfunction. It sounds technical, but let me break it down. Your endothelium is the inner lining of every blood vessel in your body. Think of it as the gatekeeper of your circulation. When it's healthy, your arteries expand and contract with ease, blood flows smoothly, and oxygen reaches your tissues, including the most sensitive ones. But when your endothelium becomes damaged from aging, poor diet, high blood pressure, stress, or years of inflammation, it stiffens, it narrows, it begins to malfunction. That's when blood flow suffers. That's when you start to feel cold feet, fatigue, brain fog, and yes, difficulty achieving or maintaining an erection. You see, erectile function isn't a mystery, it's engineering, it's hydraulics, and that entire mechanism depends on healthy blood flow. If blood can't reach the area efficiently, or if it escapes too quickly due to vascular fragility, you're going to feel the effects. It's not in your head, it's in your vessels. And that's why dark chocolate, 70% cacao, and higher is more than just a snack. It's a vessel protector. The flavonoids in cacao work directly on the endothelium, helping it release nitric oxide, the key molecule that signals blood vessels to dilate. That dilation allows more blood to flow, not just to your heart, but to the areas that give you pleasure, confidence, and identity. Now imagine this: a man in his early 60s comes into my office. He's healthy overall, no diabetes, slightly elevated blood pressure, but he says, "Doc, something's not right. I still have desire, but my body doesn't follow." We run labs, everything looks okay, but then I run a vascular test, non-invasive, and we find it, mild endothelial dysfunction. Not enough to put him in danger, but just enough to disrupt his performance. We could reach for medication, and sometimes we do, but we also work on the root, his circulation, his diet, his stress, and yes, I introduce dark chocolate into the plan. Small amounts, daily, alongside walking, hydration, leafy greens, and better sleep. 3 months later, he comes back smiling. "Doc, I feel like the engine turned back on." And I know exactly what he means. Because when you restore blood flow, you restore energy. When you open the vessels, you open vitality. And dark chocolate plays a beautiful, natural role in that process. But here's where many men go wrong. They think more is better. They buy bars with sugar, caramel, and sweeteners. They eat too much, and suddenly, the sugar burden outweighs the benefits. That's why I always say, respect the chocolate. Treat it as medicine, not dessert. Just 1 or 2 squares a day, preferably with a meal. To slow absorption is enough. And when combined with other nitric oxide-friendly habits, like breathing through your nose, exercising outdoors, and reducing processed foods, the results compound. You're not just improving function, you're reversing damage, quietly, gradually, effectively. The truth is, erectile issues are often the first sign of vascular disease. That's right. Long before a heart attack or a stroke, Your body whispers the warning through intimacy, and if we ignore that whisper, it becomes a scream. But if we respond early with education, nutrition, and strategy, we can restore what seemed lost. This is why I do what I do, because no man should be left in the dark about what's happening in his own body. You deserve to understand your circulation. You deserve to know that you're not broken, you're just uninformed. And now that you're here, that changes. So the next time you unwrap a square of dark chocolate, I want you to see more than a snack. I want you to see a message to your arteries. I haven't given up on you. I want you to taste the future where blood flows, energy returns, and life feels full again. In the next block, we're going to talk about the psychological impact of reclaiming your health through food. How something as simple as chocolate can reignite your relationship with your body, your confidence, and even your partner. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you felt truly confident in your own body? I don't mean the kind of confidence that comes from pretending. I'm not talking about puffing your chest or cracking a joke to hide the awkwardness. I mean real, quiet, grounded confidence, the kind that lives deep in your spine, in your posture, in your eyes when you look in the mirror. When was the last time you looked at yourself and thought, I feel good today, I respect this man? Most men over 60 have been taught to focus on survival, on work, on duty, on showing up for others, and in the process, something sacred gets lost: your connection to your own body, your relationship with your pleasure, your curiosity, your sense of vitality. But I've seen it return. I've seen that light come back on in men who thought the best parts of life were behind them. And it often starts with something small, a choice, a moment, a shift in perspective. That's what I love about integrating dark chocolate into the lives of my patients. It's not just about biochemistry, it's about identity. When a man allows himself to enjoy something that's good for him, something sensual and healthy, something both disciplined and delicious, he begins to rewrite the script of what aging looks like. He no longer sees himself as someone fading, but someone evolving, someone capable of joy not in spite of age, but because of it. And that psychological shift, that reconnection to pleasure with purpose, has real consequences. You see, when you feel worthy of pleasure, you begin to take better care of yourself. You move your body differently. You speak with more authority. You look at your partner with softer eyes. You become less reactive, less angry, less shut down. And when your partner sees that shift in you, trust me, they notice it creates a new dynamic, one of openness, intimacy, curiosity. You're no longer hiding behind silence or shame. You're showing up as a man who values his health, his well-being, and his ability to connect. I remember one man, 67 years old. He told me, "Doc, I haven't felt close to my wife in years. It's not that I don't love her, just didn't feel like I could offer anything anymore." He'd been through health scares, lost muscle tone, felt disconnected, but he started small. A walk each morning, a square of dark chocolate with tea instead of dessert, a short meditation, and slowly, his confidence returned, not because of any miracle, but because of rhythm, intention, presence. 6 months later, he came back and said, "My wife told me she feels like she got me back." That's not just about erections. That's about identity. That's about coming home to yourself after years of being at war with your own reflection. And that's the deeper truth here. When you start caring for yourself through foods that love you back, like 70% dark chocolate, you're not just changing your diet, you're changing your psychology. You're sending a message to your nervous system that you are safe, you are strong, and you are still worthy of enjoyment. That mindset shift changes how you sleep, how you digest, how you heal, how you love. It spills into every part of your life. It reduces anxiety, lowers depression, rekindles desire, and all of that. Yes, even that can start with a conscious bite of something bitter and bold and honest. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You've already lived. You've already earned your place. Now, the challenge is to return to yourself, not with shame, but with grace. Not to fix what's broken, but to care for what still works. There is so much that still works. And in the next block, I'm going to guide you through how to combine chocolate with other foods and natural elements that enhance male vitality even further, so you can build a foundation of daily habits that support your best years right now. Now that you've welcomed dark chocolate into your daily rhythm gently, respectfully, with awareness, it's time to take it a step further. Because while 70% dark chocolate is powerful on its own, Something beautiful happens when we combine it with other natural allies. You create synergy, you enhance absorption, you stack the benefits in your favor, and you do it all without needing a medicine cabinet full of pills. Let me walk you through a few of these pairings. Think of them as your support team, each one playing a role in helping you feel stronger, sharper, and more alive. First up, magnesium. Did you know that cacao is already one of the richest sources of magnesium on the planet? That means every bite of dark chocolate supports your muscles, your nervous system, and your sleep. But what if you also include foods that boost that effect? Add a handful of pumpkin seeds to your breakfast, snack on almonds, include leafy greens like spinach or kale in your meals. These foods don't just complement chocolate, they amplify it. Magnesium helps lower cortisol, improves blood vessel function, and calms the mind. You'll start sleeping better, thinking clearer, and yes, feeling more desire. Next, healthy fats. Pairing chocolate with a small portion of avocado, extra virgin olive oil, or nuts slows the release of sugar into your bloodstream, making it even safer for men with insulin resistance or prediabetes. Fat also supports the production of key hormones, including testosterone, and when your hormones are nourished, everything else starts to work more smoothly. Now let's talk about citrus, especially oranges and lemon. The vitamin C in these fruits helps preserve the flavonoids in cacao as they enter your body. So having a slice of orange or a squeeze of lemon water alongside your chocolate can make those antioxidant compounds more effective. You're not just enjoying food, you're creating a biochemical alliance inside you. And what about spices? I'm glad you asked. Try a pinch of cinnamon or cayenne pepper with your chocolate. Cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar. Cayenne supports circulation and warms the body, especially helpful for those chilly mornings when your joints feel stiff and your libido feels sluggish. These spices, used thoughtfully, turn food into fuel. Let's not forget green tea. Rich in catechins, green tea enhances endothelial function and supports the same nitric oxide pathways that chocolate does. Enjoying a cup of warm green tea with a square of dark chocolate isn't just comforting, it's therapeutic. You're sipping on a strategy that brings calm, clarity, and circulation to your day. Now, I want to touch on something deeper: timing. When you eat matters. I recommend enjoying your chocolate earlier in the day, after breakfast or lunch, so the small amount of caffeine and theobromine in cacao doesn't interfere with your sleep. And if you combine it with protein or fiber-rich foods, your body digests it more gradually, keeping your energy steady instead of crashing. All of these combinations, magnesium-rich foods, healthy fats, citrus, spices, green tea, they aren't about restriction, they're about integration. You're not dieting, you're designing. You're building a day that supports who you are now and who you want to become. Let me give you an example. One of my favorite vitality snacks to recommend to men over 60 is incredibly simple. 1 square of 70% dark chocolate, 5 almonds, and a cup of green tea with lemon. That's it. Just that combination, taken mid-morning or after lunch, has helped dozens of my patients reduce afternoon crashes, feel more alert, and stay consistent with their healthy habits. They don't feel like they're being good, they feel like they're finally being wise. And there's a difference. Wisdom is about aligning with what your body actually needs, not just what the world says is trendy or convenient. And one final note before we move on: hydration. Never underestimate the power of water. When your body is well hydrated, your blood flows more freely, your digestion improves, and your cells absorb nutrients more efficiently, including the polyphenols in chocolate. So, as you start this new ritual, let water be your companion. A glass in the morning, a sip between meals. It sounds simple, but it completes the circle. In the next block, I'll speak to something that most men avoid talking about: fear. The fear of fading, of no longer being desired, of losing the spark, and how choosing nourishment like chocolate is an act of courage in the face of that fear. There's something we don't talk about enough as men. We talk about supplements. We talk about testosterone. We talk about blood pressure and cholesterol and prostate exams. But we rarely talk about the fear underneath it all. The quiet fear that maybe we've passed our peak, that maybe we're no longer desirable, no longer needed, that the spark we once had in our bodies, in our relationships, in our purpose, has faded into something we don't recognize. I see it every day, in the way my patients sit when they enter my office, in their hesitations, in the way they clear their throats before asking about something deeply personal. The words come slow. Doctor, is this just part of getting older? And I always answer the same way. No, it's not just age. It's neglect. It's misinformation. It's the cumulative effect of decades of putting yourself last, of suppressing emotion, of accepting discomfort as normal, of forgetting that you still matter. Because you do. You still matter to the people who love you. You still matter to your community. You still matter to yourself. But here's the truth. You must claim that truth. No one else can do it for you. And sometimes, that claiming starts in the simplest place by feeding yourself something that says, I care. Not because someone told you to. Not because it's trendy, but because you decided you were worth caring for. That's why I keep coming back to this one square of dark chocolate. It's not about flavor. It's about attention, intention. A man who unwraps a piece of 70% cacao and takes a moment to enjoy it without guilt is a man who is learning to reconnect, to slow down, to feel that man is no longer numbing. He is choosing, and that choice is powerful. Because the loss of desire is not the death of manhood, it is the cry of disconnection. Your body wants to feel, your heart wants to be seen, your spirit wants to rise. But none of that can happen if you're stuck in survival mode, eating mindlessly, breathing shallow, and avoiding the mirror. That's why I say this, with urgency and compassion. You are not too old to change. You are not too broken to heal. You are not too far gone to feel fire again, and you don't need to do it all at once. You begin where you are, with a walk around the block, with a glass of water in the morning, with one small square of dark chocolate taken not in guilt, but in reverence. You begin by paying attention, and slowly, you'll feel it shift, not overnight, but with time, you'll notice yourself standing taller, sleeping deeper, feeling hungrier, not just for food, but for life. You'll notice your mind clearing, your touch softening, your confidence returning, and yes, your desire will return to not the kind from your 20s aggressive, automatic, ego-driven, but something richer, something rooted, something more in tune with who you are now. A desire that is slower, deeper, more connected. A desire that grows in stillness, in care, in real intimacy. And it starts with honoring your biology, feeding your vessels, calming your nerves, rebuilding trust with your body. The chocolate is just a singular, daily reminder that change is possible. Because what you're afraid of isn't aging, you're afraid of disappearing. But listen to me clearly, directly. As a man who has walked beside thousands of others through this same chapter, you haven't disappeared. You've just gone quiet. And now, it's time to return. With grace, with curiosity, with discipline, with compassion. In the next block, I'll take you through how to build this into a morning ritual. A few minutes a day that sets your tone, fuel your body, and help you wake up, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. Let's talk about mornings. Because how you begin your day, especially after 60, shapes everything that follows. Your thoughts, your energy, your desire, your discipline, your connection to the world around you. And I'm not going to ask you to become someone you're not. I'm not here to sell you a 10-step wellness routine or convince you to wake up at 4 a.m. and run a marathon. I'm here to offer something real, something practical, something that works. I call it the Vitality Start. And it begins with one word: presence. Before you reach for your phone, before you check emails, before you flood your brain with the outside world, I want you to sit, just sit, on the edge of your bed, on your favorite chair, near the window, anywhere you feel calm. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. Feel your body. Breathe through your nose. Slow, deep breaths. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Just 5 rounds. That's all. That alone begins to shift your nervous system from stress to calm, from cortisol to clarity. Next, hydrate. A full glass of room temperature water with a squeeze of lemon. You've gone hours without fluid. Your cells are thirsty. Your brain is foggy. That glass is a signal. We begin again. Now, here's where your chocolate enters. Take one square, just one, of 70% dark chocolate. Place it on a small plate, like it matters, because it does. Sit with it. Breathe it in, break it gently, and let it melt on your tongue, slowly. You're not eating for pleasure alone. You're eating for nitric oxide, for flavonoids, for magnesium, for mood, for libido. You're inviting circulation to awaken gently. You're telling your blood vessels, get ready. Today we live fully. And here's something powerful. When you consume chocolate in this way, unhurried, Paired with breath and hydration, its benefits amplify. Your body receives it more openly. Your metabolism processes it more smoothly. Your mind links it with awareness, and awareness is the foundation of change. After that, move. I'm not asking for a workout. I'm asking for 10 minutes. Walk outside if you can, or stretch by a window. Roll your shoulders. Rotate your hips, gently, deliberately. Get blood flowing to your legs, your back, your pelvis. Wake up your circulation, not with force but with rhythm. If you like, put on soft music, or stand in silence, but feel your body. Let it speak, let it breathe. Some men choose to pray during this time, others meditate. Some write down a thought of gratitude or an intention for the day. It doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you choose, that you take 5 or 10 minutes not from your day but for it. Let me tell you what I see in men who adopt this kind of morning ritual. They stop chasing, they start leading, they stop dreading the day, they begin shaping it. Their blood pressure improves, their digestion stabilizes, their confidence returns, and yes, their libido returns too. Because when you start your day in alignment with your biology and spirit, when you nourish instead of numb, move instead of rush, breathe instead of brace, you remind your body that it's safe to be alive. And in safety, desire returns. This entire ritual takes no more than 20 minutes, and it requires nothing expensive. Just your attention, your breath, your presence, a square of real chocolate, a glass of water, a bit of movement, a dash of silence. And yet, it can rebuild what you thought was lost. In the next and final block, I'll close this journey with a message for every man who still wonders if he's too old to change, or too far from the man he used to be. I'll remind you of what you've learned and what you've always known deep down, that healing isn't about age, it's about choice, and the time to choose is now. If you're still here with me, I want you to know something. You've already done something extraordinary, not because you listened to a doctor, not because you learned about chocolate, or nitric oxide, or cortisol, or testosterone, but because you stopped just for a moment and paid attention to yourself. You chose presence over distraction, knowledge over passivity, curiosity over resignation, and that is where everything begins. You see, most men your age don't reach this point. They dismiss the signs. They accept decline as inevitable. They joke about getting old, as if aging was something to laugh away, instead of something to face with grace and clarity. But not you. You stayed. You listened. You felt. Maybe even saw yourself in the words. And that means something is waking up inside you. Maybe it's the part of you that remembers how it feels to walk with confidence. Maybe it's the part that remembers passion, or the part that still longs to touch and be touched, not just with the body, but with presence, with warmth, with spirit. I told you at the beginning, this was never just about chocolate. It's about permission. Permission to change. Permission to feel. Permission to care about yourself. Again, not in vanity, but in truth. Because there's a version of you that still exists. The one who smiles easily. The one who loves deeply. The one who stands strong not because he's unbreakable, but because he's honest enough to say, I want more life. And life, my friend, is still here, waiting. Waiting in the quiet moments of your morning. Waiting in the first breath of the day. Waiting in the square of dark chocolate you savor not as escape, but as medicine. Waiting in the pulse of your blood, the beat of your heart, the still burning embers of your desire. You are not past your prime. You are not invisible. You are not a shadow of your younger self. You are wiser now. You are deeper now. And when you combine that wisdom with care, with intention, with small daily choices rooted in respect, you become more powerful than ever. So here is my invitation to you, man, to man, heart to heart. Let this be the day you stop waiting for someone else to fix it. Let this be the day you stop comparing yourself to who you used to be. Let this be the day you begin again. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to impress anyone. You just need to come home to your breath, your strength, your masculinity, your joy. And maybe, just maybe, it starts with one dark square, one ritual, one act of care. You've carried so much, for so long, and now it's time to put something down. The shame, the guilt, the story that says it's too late. It's not too late. It's never too late to feel better, to love deeper, to rise stronger. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a body to be honored, a mind to be nourished, a soul to be listened to. And I am honored, truly honored, to have walked this part of the path with you. If this message spoke to you, share it, leave a comment, tell me where you're watching from. Let other men know that they're not alone. And remember, here on Wellness Over 60, we don't chase youth, we embody wisdom. We don't fear change, we guide it. And we don't give up on our bodies. We return to them every day with breath, with food, with truth, and with love. You're not just surviving anymore, you're beginning again. And I'll be right here every step of the way.